I hope that you've had a good break and everyone has the books that you need for Yizkor so that we can get started. As I look out, I have a very keen sense of this being a year of losses for many people. A lot of parents, for one, family members across the spectrum, people who are in the room and people who I know are watching on Zoom. And I want to particularly mention, as I mentioned, I can't mention everybody who's died in the past year, if it's a parent or a family member, but I do want to particularly extend my warmest prayers to Judy Katz-Levine, who is mourning her husband, Barry Levine. So let's begin. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Hamilton and Encanto meet Yizkor. We enter the sanctuary at Yizkor, whether for the first time or after many, carrying a burden. Each of us is carrying the story and the legacy of someone, or perhaps many. What is it that we hope for in this quiet time on Yom Kippur afternoon? Well, I imagine that we would each feel grateful to let go of the burden that we carry, or to lighten it through community and prayer. Our grief may take many forms, lingering and lonely, full of weeping, or found in quiet struggle. If we could only find a way to ease our burden, to carry our grief a little more gently, so that the light of our lives may shine a path forward. As a wise colleague suggested to me recently, at Yizkor we have the capacity to release the burdens and to receive the gifts. My own experience with death this past year is probably much like yours, whether it was this year when we buried husbands and parents and siblings and nephews, or in the past years of mourning family and close friends. It has been for me a time of worry, attention, and care. I was privileged to bear witness to my mother-in-law in her last days by phone, not knowing how imminent her end would be. And I had the great privilege to be able to accompany my sister through her terminal illness from sometime around now last fall, to 2 visits with her in person, but usually by phone. and in her passage into calls every day into her final days. And in the process of accompanying my sister Betty, I gathered memories. I texted her when she was first diagnosed, asking her a question every day: her favorite pet, the way she liked her coffee, what kind of chocolate she preferred. And then I heard stories from my brother Michael and from her closest friends. Her daughter Jennifer shared and collected stories as well. And I myself reviewed the multitude of moments that I shared with my sister over a lifetime of joys and struggles. From all those memories, I began to shape a different version of the story of our family, and particularly of my relationship with her. And in the process, Betty's story took on qualities that I had never before appreciated about her. And I felt redeemed. My understanding of our family was transformed, and I believe that my other remaining siblings and I all received gifts of healing. Redemption and healing begin with facing all the qualities of a relationship. As another wise colleague told me on our Zoom Shiva, the family is the primary place of our pathology. We carry those memories, all of them, including the ones we would rather forget. So Yizkor is a time not only for us to remember, as the word Yizkor means, but to remember. Take the light of the Yortzeit candle and let its glow illuminate the shadows of your memory, radiating a new way of thinking about the person you are remembering. Note that we have no control over how long we live, but we do have control over how we tell the story. As we hear in the musical Hamilton, who lives, who dies, who tells your story, is a way to intentionally change the narrative, to transform the life of the one we remember. And in retelling the story, we can release the burdens and receive the gifts. That is, we might be successful in unburdening ourselves of family trauma or dysfunction and discover untold gifts. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who retold Hamilton's story in his own way, cast another family story in the movie Encanto. Now, I don't assume you've all seen it, so I'll give you a recap. You may know the most popular song from the film, though not necessarily everyone's favorite, was "We Don't Talk About Bruno." Many of us may have a Bruno in our family, an outcast, the black sheep, the one we never talk about, or at least when we do talk, we rarely have anything good to say. They may have gone to jail. They may have been violent or abusive or difficult. Or maybe they just had a different personality than the rest of the family, a different style and different priorities. In the film Encanto, the invisible Bruno casts a dark shadow over the family. And thanks to the persistence of his niece, Mirabelle, who gathers stories herself from her siblings, Bruno's true nature is uncovered. And by the end, Bruno is revealed with newly found appreciation. In this tale, Bruno was blessed to be received back into the family while he was alive. Not everyone is so fortunate to be received home with love while they are still alive. What happens when that person dies, still an outcast? Most likely, no one knows their true worth. In the worst case, no one cares to know. Their story is the one we never talk about. And yet, it lingers. We, the living, hold the power to discover and then retell their story. We can let go of the burden of who we thought they were while we receive the gifts that they have left behind. In so doing, we redeem the Brunos in our lives from their purgatory and redeem ourselves from the burdens of pain and confusion. The notion that the narrative can change and new meanings arise emerges from Torah itself, in a teaching on the various marches and encampments that the children of Israel took on their 40-year journey to the land of promise. So at the very, very end of the fourth book, Bamidbar, Numbers, we come to the conclusion of their journey and we read, Moses recorded the starting points of their various marches as directed by the Holy One. Their marches by starting points were as follows. So we have these two words, their starting points, Motzehem, and their marches, Masehem, and that phrase is repeated, but in reverse. The starting points, the Motzehem of their various marches, their Masehem, and then the marches, Masehem, by starting points, were as follows. So, my favorite Hasidic teacher of the year, the Sfat Emet, draws from this unusual repetition and phrasing, the teaching that each stop on our journey can be transformed in our minds over time. Just think about it. Places you have been, and suddenly you have new perspectives on what happened there. He writes, there are places that have no kiyum, no existence, no fulfillment, no meaning, until a person distances themselves from them. Those are called masa'ot, they're called journeys, because they're called marches, because the journey, the masa from those places, raised them up in the process. On account of these journeys, the motzehem, the starting points, merited to be mentioned in the Torah and to have a place. And it's afterward, after the journeys, after we recorded them, that we can undergo a tikkun, which you know means a repair or a healing. It's that tikkun that gives the places their names. That's the transformation the Sfat Emet says happens from the journeys. Meaning with time and distance, the places we have been and the people we have known can be raised up, given a new shape and a new name. As memory unfolds over time, wisdom can sweeten the bitterness. And we have the power to do a tikkun, to repair and to heal ourselves, and by extension, to heal them. My sister was received with love by our family. And the story of her life, which was encumbered by mental illness and all kinds of financial struggles, was openly talked about and shared. And suddenly we realized that she had worked very, very, very hard to not only get through the obstacles, but to keep a positive attitude regardless, and to make life beautiful in the face of her pain. And in realizing that, I felt it was my duty to retell her story as her eulogy, to be able to help our family reshape the narrative that we had always had about her. So as we all remember our loved ones at Yizkor, another colleague reminded me on the Zoom Shiva that we bring to life the important verse from Shir HaShirim, from Song of Songs. Love is stronger than death. Whether the person's story in life was of a sinner or a saint, after they die, we may discover unknown or misunderstood aspects of their lives. The saints were far from perfect. The sinners were not worthless. We, the living, have the capacity to look at them anew and start telling their remarkable story of survival in the face of their obstacles. We can retell their stories, reshape their legacy, and redeem ourselves as well. Let us begin to let go of the burden and to receive the gifts. I invite you to stand as we take out the Torah as our witness to this Yizkor service. Just one. You were open in Europe. Okay, well, it stays open for now. Okay. There are booklets there for each of you. Adonai madam v'tadaehu ben enosh v'tchashvehu Adam lahevel dama yamav katzel over Baboker yatzitz v'chalaf la'erev yimolel v'yavesh tashev enosh adaka v'tomer shuvu v'nei adam. Almighty One, what are human beings that you take note of them? A human being is like a breath. A person's days are but a passing shadow. You return a person unto dust. You say, return, O children of humanity. For when we die, we take nothing away. Our glory will not descend along with us. Eternal God, we've come to sanctify our fleeting lives by linking them with yours, life of all ages. In you, generations past, present, and future are united in one bond of life. Many of those to whom we owe so much are alive with us today. We pray that we may return their goodness and devotion through acts of love and loyalty. Some of us recall today beloved parents who watched over us, nursed us, guided us, and sacrificed for us. Some of us remember brothers and sisters who grew up together with us, sharing in the play of childhood, in the youthful adventure of discovering life's possibilities, bound to us by a heritage of family tradition, by years of togetherness and love. So many of us recall beloved relatives and friends whose affection and devotion enhanced our lives and whose visible presence will never return to cheer, encourage, or support us. We are sustained and comforted by the thought that their presence in our lives remains an enduring blessing that we can bequeath to others. We show our devotion to them, our devotion to O God of love, make us worthy of the love we have received by teaching us to love you with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. We begin our private Yizkor prayers. You'll note that the English comes first and the Hebrew comes second, and find a way to perhaps tell a different story to yourself as you remember the people that you've loved and lost. El male rachamim, shochen bamromim, hametzei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashchina, b'malot kedoshim utehorim, k'zohar agia mazirim, Lenishmot kol ele sheizkarna hayom livracha shehalchu leolamam began Eden tehei menuchatam Anna bala rachamim Asirem beseter knafecha לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם. ונאמר, together, Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. God guides me in the straight paths for God's name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Mourners join in Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, Belma Divra Hirute V'amlik Malkute, V'chayechon V'yomechon, V'chaye Dechol Beit Israel, Ba'agala Uvizman Kari Vimru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavarach Le'olam L'Olmei Almaya. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yithadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shmei Dekudesha B'richu. La'ela ula'ela, Min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechamata, Damiran ve'alma v'ibru, Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Uya'aseh shalom aleinu ya'kol Yisrael v'kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. The rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they're now part of us as we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they're now a part of us as we remember and re-remember them. I'm going to return the Torah to the ark, and then Jana will close the ark. Thank you. I'm going to give everyone a little break. Mincha will begin at 5:15. The service opens with opening the ark right away. So I'm going to ask Laura Sherman to come join us on the bima. And making sure our Torah readers are prepared, Hannah Schleifer, Bobby Zabin, and Rachel Clipper. Yeah. And would you two, Henry, Naomi, why don't you go stand on the other side? Thank you. We're going to get started. Great. And Ezra is here to help too. All right, please rise as the ark is open. We are on 658. 658. Can you believe how far we've come? All right, the ark is open. It's the first thing that happens. ויהי בנשוא אהרון ויאמר משה קומה אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. Remove this Torah. Gadlu Adonai iti uneromema shemo yachdav. Kiss the Torah. Adonai Agedula Agevura Atiferet Vehanetzach Vehahod Ki cho bashamayim uvaretz Ki cho bashamayim uvaretz Adonai HaMamlaka V'mitnaseh l'chol rosh Romemu, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtachavu, V'hishtachavu L'adam raglav kadosh hu Romemu, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu. You can walk behind me if you want. Yeah, and Aiden too. Tar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu Adonai. You're going to take the aliyah, right? Yeah, you too. Okay. Lahar kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. La 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 That's what I was going to ask. So I'm glad to know. Okay. Yay. So on Yom Kippur afternoon, we have chosen to read from Leviticus chapter 19, which is found on page 669. And this is all about being holy, which for some people is a puzzling subject. What does it mean to be holy? And I found a wonderful teaching that solved two problems. One is, it says, you shall be holy, for I, Adonai, am holy. Over and over and over. It's a really interesting phrasing that happens over and over. It's not just you should be holy, you should be holy because Yud-He Vav-He, Havaya, is holy. So this is a teaching, astonishingly enough, does not come from the Sfat Emet. It's from the Maggid of Mezrich. Rabbi Dov Ber, the second generation of Hasidim. And he makes the connection between holiness and the divine with the same purpose that I spoke of last night. In essence, to be holy is the antidote to being a zombie. So what I mean is, when I quoted and he quotes the verse from Psalms, I shall not die, but live and proclaim the works of Yah. Lo amut ki ehyeh va'asaper ma'aseh Yah. And what he says is that being alive is to bring intention to everything we do, to be present to everything you do. So what the Maggid teaches is that whether you are offering a prayer or teaching words of Torah or fulfilling mitzvot or the many other essential and noble things that we do in our lives, but when we bring our awareness and reverence to our acts, when we speak from the depths of our hearts, then we are connecting indeed to that divine holiness. And when we do that, when we bring intention, that's how we are holy. We're doing holy things with holy intention, and it's connecting us to divine holiness as we proclaim the works of Yah. Va'asaper Yah. Okay? Maseh Yah. Now, this is where the Maggid makes it really interesting. There's a little bit of Hebrew wordplay, because I said the word for praise, I'll bring praise, is asaper. It's related to sipur, story, to tell. So asaper has the same root as the Hebrew word sapir. Sapir, thank you, Debbie, is a sapphire. So there's a connection between asaper and sapphire. And he says, when we do this, when we proclaim, when we bring this intensity to what we do, we shine like a sapphire. When we're present to the moment, we know, we discover a clarity that refracts the light of awareness into whatever we're doing, like sunlight through polished sapphire. Through heartfelt intention, we gleam like light, bringing into our consciousness a font of divine vitality that is the essence of holiness itself. So what does it mean when it says, be holy for I, the Lord your God, am holy? It means waking up and inhabiting the fullness of our lives. Be holy, be highly attuned, and you will bring divine light into your life. So let's read. We'll start off with Hannah as our reader. Okay? We'll bring the whole crew up. Ekra Lamod, Avram David ben Esther v'Mordechai v'Dor Babasha bat Pesha v'Baruch Lalia Rishona. You want to show? Find the point. There you go. Dana, you want to touch it? It's the beginning here, right up there. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el kol adam b'nei Yisrael, amarta alehem kadoshim tihu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem, ish amo v'aviv tira'u, v'et shabtotai tishmoru, ani Adonai Elohechem. Al tifnu el ha'elilim ve'lohei masecha lo ta'asu lachem ani Adonai Elohechem.
Make sure it doesn't place where you stop. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. So you two hang out here. And now Bobby is going to read. Ekra lamod Yitzchak ben Eliyahu v'Yehudit v'Ora bat Avram v'Sara le'aliyah shniya. If you want to take your mask off, we can hear you better. It's down. Give you a yad. No. V'chi tizbachu. Okay, I guess.
Baruch Adonai habarach,
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, ונתן לנו את תורתו. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
אמן. וכי תזבחו זבח של עמים לאדוני, לרצונכם תזבחו. ביום זבחכם יאכל וממחרת, והנותר עד יום השלישי באש יישרף. ואם האכול יאכל ביום השלישי, פיגועו לא ירצה, ואכליו עוונו יישא, כי את קודש אדוני חילל. תכרתה הנפש ההוא מעמיה, וקוצרכם את קציר ארצכם, לא תכלה בארצתך לקצור, ולקט קצירך לא תלקט, וכרמך לא תעולל, ופרד כרמך לא תלקט. לעני ולגר תעדו אותם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. And for our third aliyah, Rachel Klepper is reading again. Julian Cranberg is coming up for the aliyah. Ekra lamod Chaim David ben David Eliezer v'Sara Leah aliyah shlishit.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kervanu lavodato, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo tignovu, v'lo techachashu, v'lo tishakru, ish ba'amitoho, v'lo tishbe'u b'shmi, l'shaker v'chilalta, et shem Elohecha ani Adonai, lo ta'ashok erecha, v'lo tigzol, lo talin, ve'ula hatzachir, itcha ad boker, lo tikalel cherish, v'lifnei iver, lo titein mikshol, be'eretzem Elohecha ani Adonai, lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat, lo tisa pnei dal, ve'lo tehedar pnei gadol, betzedek tishpat amitecha, lo telech rachil be'amecha, lo ta'amod al dam ra'echa ani Adonai, lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha, hocheach tochiach et amitecha, lo tisa alav chet, lo tikom v'lo titor et b'nei amecha, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, אני אדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. So I'll let you all in on a secret, those who, you're here to witness something quite remarkable, that all three of our Torah readers have grown up in this congregation, and then Julian actually asked if he could have an aliyah. So there's this, I don't know, I'm proud. I'm proud of them all. Okay. Ekra lamoda magria, ekra lamoda golelet. We rise, the Sefer Torah is lifted. V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva. Torah, 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 Tziva, Anu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva, Anu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva, Anu Moshe. Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Morasha Kehilat Yaakov, Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe. Thank you, Naomi. Choice. As the Torah is in its resting place, you can take your seats. Lisa, you can hang out here, but you don't have to open the ark for a while. So it's up to you. Now we have another treat. I only discovered this year from our president, Raquel Rosenblatt, that her very humble and enthusiastic mother, who is known by many of us for reading Torah on Shabbat morning and for being our dramatic reader in Torah study, how could I not know that she had a tradition of reading Yonah, Sefer Yonah, the book of Jonah, in Hebrew and in English for many years in her prior congregation. So we're so grateful. Raquel and Debbie are going to come up, and a shout out to Susanna, who for so many years has been responsible for Sefer Yonah and is passing it on. So if you to follow, you'll be right where we were. 675 are the brachot, and it goes right into the reading. Yeah. Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'amarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nbiei hamet v'tzedek.
Amen. ויהי דבר אדוני אל יונה ואמיתי לאמור, קום, לך אל ננבי העיר הגדולה, וקרא עליה, כי עלתה רעתם לפניי. ויקום יונה לברוח תרשישה מלפני אדוני, וירד יפו, וימצא אונייה באה תרשיש, ויתן שכרה, וירא בה לבוא עמהם תרשישה מלפני אדוני. The word of the Eternal came to Yonah, the son of Amittai, saying, arise, go to the great city of Nineveh and cry out against it, for its wickedness is apparent to me. But Yonah arose to flee instead to Tarshish, away from the Eternal One's presence. He went down to Jaffa and found a ship bound for Tarshish, away from God's presence. Now the Eternal had cast a mighty wind toward the sea, and it became such a violent storm at sea that the ship appeared likely to be shattered. The sailors became frightened, and each man cried out to his God. They cast the ship's cargo overboard in order to lighten it for them. Jonah, Yonah, ירד אל ירכתי הספינה, וישכב וירדם. Yonah, in the meantime, had gone down to the hold of the vessel, where he lay down and fell fast asleep. The captain approached him and said, "How can you sleep so soundly? Get up and cry out to your God. Perhaps that God will consider us and we won't perish." Then the sailors said to one another, "Let's cast lots so that we may know on whose account this evil has happened to us." And the lot fell upon Yonah. So they said to him, "Tell us now, you, on whose account this evil has happened. What is your trade? Where are you from? What is your land? And of what people are you?" Vayomer alehem, Ivri anochi, v'yat Adonai Elohei hashamayim ani yareh, asher asat hayam v'yat hayabasha. He replied to them, "I am a Hebrew, and I revere the Eternal, God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." The men were seized with fear and asked him, "What have you done?" And when the men understood that he was fleeing from the Eternal because he had told them, they asked him, "What should we do with you to make the sea calm down for us? For the sea is growing stormier." ויאמר עליהם, "שאוני והטילוני אל הים, וישתוק הים מעליכם, כי יודע אני כי בשלי הסער הגדול הזה עליכם." Yonah replied, "Pick me up and throw me overboard, and the sea will calm down for you, because I know that it is on account of me that this mighty storm has come upon you." Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to return to shore, but they were unable because the sea was growing stormier upon them. Then they cried out to the Eternal and said, "Please, O Eternal One, let us not perish on account of this man's life. Do not let us be guilty of shedding innocent blood, for you are the Eternal One. You do whatever you please." And they lifted Yonah up and cast him overboard, and the sea stopped its raging. Then the men were seized with a great fear of the Eternal. Vayiru hanashim vayira gdolat Adonai, vayizbechu zevach laAdonai, vayidru nidarim. They offered a sacrifice to the Eternal and made vows. Vayeman Adonai dag gadol livloa et Yonah. ויהי יונה במאי הדג 3 ימים ו3 לילות. Now God had prepared a great fish to swallow up Yonah, and Yonah stayed in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Yonah prayed to the Eternal, his God, from the fish's belly, and said, "Out of my distress I called out to God and was answered. From the belly of Sheol I cried out. You heard my voice. You cast me into the depths, into the heart of the seas. The ocean swirled around me, your breakers and waves swept over me. Then I thought, I have been exiled from your sight, but I will yet gaze upon your holy temple. The waters encompassed me to the point of death. The deep engulfed me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. I sank to the foot of the mountains. The earth was barred against me forever. But you lifted my life from out of the pit. Eternal One, my God, while my soul was fainting within me, I remembered the Eternal. I prayed to you in your holy temple. Those who keep watch over worthless idols forsake their own welfare. But I, with the voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. I will fulfill what I have vowed. Deliverance is the Eternal. Vayomer Adonai ladag, vayakeh et Yonah el hayabasha. Then the Eternal commanded the fish, and it spewed Yonah unto dry ground. Vayehi dvar Adonai el Yonah shenit lemor. Kum, lech el Ninve ha'ir hagdola, ukra elecha et hakriya asher anochi dover elecha. And the word of the Eternal came to Yonah a second time, saying, Arise, go to the great city of Nineveh to proclaim what I am telling you. Yonah set out and went to Nineveh as God had commanded. Now Nineveh was an enormously large city, a 3-day journey across. Yonah started out and entered into the city the distance of 1 day's journey and proclaimed, Vayomar, Od arba'im yom v'Nineveh nepachet. 40 days more and Nineveh shall be overturned. The people of Nineveh trusted in God. They proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, young and old alike. When word reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne and removed his royal robe. He covered himself in sackcloth and sat in ashes. He had the following proclamation declared throughout Nineveh. By decree of the king and his nobles, neither human nor beast, nor herd nor flock shall taste anything. They shall neither graze nor drink water. They are to cover themselves with sackcloth, both human and beast, and call out to God with all their strength. Let all turn back from their evil ways and from the injustice of which they are guilty. Who knows whether repentance may cause God to relent and turn away from wrath so that we do not perish. Vayara Elohim et maasehem ki shavu midarkam hara'ah. Vayinachem ha'Elohim al hara'ah asher diber lasot lahem v'lo asa. God then saw their deeds, that they repented from their evil ways. And God relented from the planned calamity and did not carry it out. Vayiral Yonah ra'ah gdola, vayichalo. This distressed Jonah greatly, and it angered him. He prayed to the Eternal, saying, Ana Adonai halozeh dvari, ad heyoti ad admati al ken kidamti livroach tarshisha, ki yadati ki ata el chanun v'rachum, erech apayim v'rav chesed v'nicham al hara'ah. O Eternal One, is this not what I said while I was still in my own land? I therefore hastened to flee to Tarshish, for I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, patient and abounding in kindness, and would relent from punishment. So now, Eternal One, please take my life, for I would rather die than live. Vayomer Adonai, Ha'itev charalach? The Eternal replied, Are you right to be so angry? Yonah left the city and situated himself to its east. He made for himself a sukkah, a booth there, and sat under its shade to see what would eventually happen to the city. The Eternal God prepared a kikayon plant, which rose up over Yonah to provide shade over his head and save him from his discomfort. And Yonah rejoiced greatly over the kikayon. But the next day at dawn, God prepared a worm which attacked the kikayon plant so that it withered. And when the sun rose, God prepared a stifling east wind, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head, and he became faint. He begged for death, saying, I would rather die than live. Vayishal al nafsho lamut vayomer tov moti mechayai. Vayomer al Elohim el Yonah, ha'hetev chara lecha lakikayon, vayomer hetev chara li ad mavet. God then asked Jonah, Are you right to be so angry about the kikayon plant? And he replied, I am so angry, I could die. Then the Eternal One said, Vayomer Adonai, Ata chasta al hakikayon. You took pity on the kikayon plant, which you neither labored for nor made to grow. It appeared overnight and perished overnight. Should I not take pity on the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from their left, and many beasts as well? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol haolamim, sadik bechol hadorot, ha'el hane'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Ne'eman atah hu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'emanim devarecha, v'davar echad midvarecha, Achor lo yashuv reikam, ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman ata, baruch ata Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol dvarav. Rachem al Zion, ki hi beit chayenu, ve'la'aluvat nefesh toshia, b'mehera v'yamenu, baruch ata Adonai. Misameach Zion bevaneha. Samchenu Adonai Eloheinu be'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha uvemalchut beit David beshichecha bimhera yavo v'yagel libenu al kis'o lo yeshev zar v'lo yinchalu or b'acherim et kevodo כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים, ועל יום הכיפורים הזה, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, למחילה ולסליחה, ולכפרה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני. מלך מוחל וסולח לעוונותינו ולעוונות עמו בית ישראל, ומעביר אשמותינו בכל שנה ושנה. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל, ויום הכיפורים.
Amen.
יופי, יופי, מזל טוב.
Yishar kach. So Peter Kronberg is going to share some teachings about Sefer Yonah, and now that you've heard the dramatic rendition,
This is unfair. Unfair.
you want to take your mic off, your mask off?
I'll take my mask off.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. That
Rabbi.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
I know.
misled you.
Wow. All right. Here we go. We're gonna do our best here. Okay, we're all hungry and tired, I know, and I'm gonna try to make this brief. There's a lot to think about in this story. The first thought I want to leave you with is that Nineveh was inhabited by Assyrians, and these were enemies of Israel who conquered and brutally tortured their captives, and being the sculptor that I am, I went to look at what some of the art was like. They actually have low relief sculptures of them jamming people from their bottoms on poles, and then they lived like that for a while. I mean, these were lovely, lovely people. Israel was under constant threat from these people, and Jonah's refusal to prophetically warn Nineveh sounds like prudent behavior to me, and not a prelude to God's compassion. So what's going on here? We also read Jonah as Yom Kippur service draws to a close because it demonstrates that we worship a compassionate God. I mean, it fits right in with the picture. It shows us that even horrible people can, turn from evil, renounce their ways, and avert God's wrath, right? It's cited as the classic example of tshuva. It's judgment coupled with compassion. And many commentators point out, citing Psalm 145, verse 9, our God is the God of all humanity, not just Jews, right? And God, our God, and their God prefers rachamim, mercy, over din, judgment. So that's why we read it here. Okay, but I'm still thinking it wasn't always so. I mean, these characteristics of God. When considering whether to destroy Nineveh, God actually, in my opinion, trades places with Abraham, our patriarch Abraham. Remember Abraham? Abraham was saying to God, don't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. There might be decent people there. This is a famous argument. Here is a Jew arguing with God about destruction, and it gets turned on its head here. Here, God is arguing with Jonah, saying, I shouldn't destroy Nineveh. So, what's going on here? The sadistic conquerors can get a break. Perhaps we're reading it so that maybe we can get a break. Us sinners, they got a chance at it. Maybe we can too. And then I was thinking, God is really actually pretty destructive, right? I mean, Sodom and Gomorrah, Noah and the flood. My goodness, I mean, this keeps going on and on and on. Egyptian firstborn children, it's kind of terrifying. And in here, there's an about face. Perhaps it's a sign of progress for us to see our God maturing in some ways, less violent, more favorable to redemption and tshuva. And then I was thinking, everyone's catching a break in this story. Think about it for a minute. So Jonah, refusing a direct order from God, had plenty of chances to straighten up and fly right? Was not smitten, was not smote, was allowed to keep going. The sailors, who aren't even Jewish, right? They're clearly honorable people who used every opportunity to row away. They were not struck down along with Jonah. Only Jonah was tossed overboard. So they caught a break. The animals and Nineveh, they caught a massive break. And the fish, this big fish, got to expel a petulant prophet from its innards. I mean, it took a while, but the fish got a break. The worm, the worm got a tasty meal. There's only one entity that got screwed. That's the gourd. The poor gourd. I mean, Jonah, with his priorities backward, was the only one lamenting the loss of the gourd. All right. So rabbis have contorted themselves into pretzels to try to make this story make sense. The fish was created especially for this task. Takes Jonah on the tour of the Red Sea. Amazing stuff. They argue that Jonah may have fled an omnipotent God because he thought that maybe his gift of prophecy wouldn't work, unless he fled away, and it might not work in Tarshish, and therefore he wouldn't have to. Wait a minute, this is an omnipotent God that sees everything. Others argue that this is actually a parody. This was inserted into our holy text by people who were too dim-witted to recognize it as a parody. What's going on? Does it really matter, though? I don't think so. So we Jews, at the end of this day of fasting, we hope against hope that the stuff that's confronting us, like the nuclear fire and brimstone that's being threatened, will not rain down on our heads, or that this pandemic and other pandemics to come will pass speedily, and that the groundswell of anti-Semitism that we're dealing with right now, I mean, this attitude towards 0.02% of the Earth's population will perhaps be averted through the light of compassion and mercy towards all people, especially ourselves. But however, in the end, the final analysis, I think this story is about change and the capacity to change. Jonah did an about face inside the fish, granted, and he didn't keep going along in that vein, but he did change for a while. God seems to have changed, didn't she? Not as violent. Violent Assyrians changed. One author suggested there's a hiatus between their very violent wars of aggression during Jonah's time. Of course, when that passed, they kept it up again. But for a while anyway, they did change. If that's the case, maybe we can all change. Possibly even Putin. Synagogue members have taken training to spot and redirect anti-Semitic threats. We've all heard about these classes. I urge you to take them. Many of us have embraced mask wearing and vaccines to, ward off the pandemics. We vote for skilled leaders when we find them who do not glorify war. We examine ourselves for prejudices that we're all guilty of perpetuating, consciously or not. That's been a theme during this Yom Kippur. And we try to behave differently in the world. Perhaps it's change that we can all try and change for the better.
Shkoach, Peter. Thank you for offering that and waking us up a bit. This afternoon of Yom Kippur that is quickly becoming evening. So it is time for us to return the Sefer Torah to the Aron and finish the Mincha service. We are on 690, and Lisa Berelson will be opening the Ark, and Naomi Bethune is holding the Sefer Torah for us. I invite everyone to please rise. Yahalalu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado, odo al eretz v'shamayim, vayaren keren le'amo, tila lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael, akarovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Eitz Chaim Hila Machazikim Babatom Checha Meushar. Eitz Chaim Hila Machazikim Babatom Checha Meushar. Shalom, 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 shalom. Shalom, shalom. It's a tree of life to those that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It's a tree of life to those that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Shalom, 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 shalom. Eitz Chaim Hila Machazikim Babatom Checha Meushar. Eitz Chaim Hila Machazikim Babatom Checha Meushar. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, 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 shalom. Ya ra ra ra, ya la 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 la. la la la. Uvnucho Yomar, 692, don't close the ark yet. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al tazovu, Eitz Chaim hi, lama chazikim ba, v'tomchecha merushar derachecha, darchei noam, v'chol netivoteha shalom. Ashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva kadesh yameinu ke'edem. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Naomi. Regenerations here. So we turn to the Amidah for Mincha, which is on page 693. What I'm going to suggest is I'll start with Chatzi Kaddish, and we'll give you time for a quiet Amidah on your own, and then we'll close with the Vidui at the end aloud. So I want to begin with, apparently I did not have anything to share before the Amidah, so we'll just take a deep breath. This is number 4 of 5. See what it is that you can, where you can go deeper, what you can find that has been waiting to be found. Oh, and Bruce is going to do a reading, so you can all sit down. I knew there was something. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Bruce. You can rest. This is our introduction to the Amidah. It's in your supplement. Thank you, Bruce and Mallory.
Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. If we were not so single-minded and keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead in winter and later proves to be alive. Now, I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go.
Please rise. Yitkadosh meraba V'alma divra pirtei v'yamlich malchutei V'chayechon uvyomechon Uv'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael V'agala v'zman karib v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabam v'vorach le'olam l'olmei Amaya Yitkadosh ויתברך, וישתבח, ויפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי קודשה, בריחו, לילה ולילה, מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, לימרו. We turn to 723, joining together for the Vidui once again to close the Mincha service. Invite you, if you are not yet standing, to rise, page 722. Anu azefanim ve'tarapum v'chanun, anu k'she'oref ve'ta'er kapayim, anu le'avon ve'tamal rachamim, anu yamenu ketzel over ve'tapush notecha lo yitamu. Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu, tavo lefanecha tefilatenu, ve'al titaleh mitchinatenu, she'enanu azefanim ukshei oref, lomar lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elokei Avotenu, tzadikim anachnu v'lo chatanu, aval anachnu chatanu. 723. Ashamnu, bagadnu, gazalnu, dibarnu dofi, avinu, vehirshanu, zadnu, hamasnu, Kafalnu sheker, ay, 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 yatznu ra, kizavnu, latznu, maradnu, niatznu, sararnu, avinu, pashanu, tsaranu, kishinu oref, ay, 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 rashanu, shichatnu, tiavnu, tainu, titanu. On 726, this is the last Al-Chet. There is no Al-Chet at Ne'ilah. This is our last recitation of the litany, as Josh said, Aleph to Taf, A to Z, but in English this time. Our God and God of all creation, we've caused more harm than we can remember and hurt more people than we ever realized, both by what we've done and what we have neglected to do. We dare not see the effects of our sins. Because of your great mercy, even for these, we ask your pardon and forgiveness. We ask your pardon not only for the great sins, but for the small ones as well. Both are part of our daily life, and you alone know what is great and small. Together, for feeding our bodies and starving our souls, for interfering with the souls of others and neglecting their needs, for shifting our responsibilities, for reproaches and recriminations. Forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. For calculating kindness and measuring out pity, for charity that is cold and prayers without feeling, for sending in accounts, for love. For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, slach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. For appeals that we ignored and the people whom we refused, for the affection which died and our love that became bitter, for the visions which faded, the ideals we neglected, and the opportunities lost. Forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. For the fear of change and renewal, and for our unbelief, for saying prayers but refusing to listen, for being our own worst enemy. For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Ve'al kulam Eloah salicho, slach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. For hoarding grudges and insults, for refusing to let go, for abandoning hope, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. For making God in our own image, for our hypocrisy and self-righteousness, for profaning holy things, for all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Ve'al kulam Eloah salichot, slach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. We have sinned against you unwillingly. We've sinned against you willingly. We've sinned against you secretly, and we've sinned against you openly. We've sinned against you unintentionally, and we have sinned against you intentionally. For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Ve'al kulam Eloah salichot, slach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam Eloah salichot, slach lanu mechalanu, slach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Take our seats to close Mincha on 728. Yitgadal v'yikadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chaye chonu v'yom mechon, u'b'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala u'b'zman kari v'yimeru amen. Yehesh merabba mevorach le'olam u'olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha v'yihu leila u'leila mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimeru amen. Titkabel tzloton u'voton d'chol Beit Yisrael kadam avuhon v'yishmaya v'yimeru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chaim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru v'yimeru v'yimeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimeru amen. Our final service of the Yom Kippur day, Ne'ilah, the closing, the locking of the gates. We have had many powerful moments during the day, heard many words from poets and philosophers and scholars. And all of that comes together at Ne'ilah, filling this last Amidah, helping us to put all of our intention and awareness and reverence into these final prayers. One of the goals that I have always maintained as a rabbi is to teach you to pray. And not just the words that are found in the communal prayers or when you bow or stand up, but the experience of prayer and how to access it. I have given directions, I've offered practices to help you find your own prayer. I want to share that in the future, you are going to meet other rabbis. And they're going to pray in ways you might find familiar or you might not. And you might even be inclined, God forbid, to judge them. You might wish they led the prayers differently. But I want to share a trade secret. No one can tell you how to pray. You don't need a rabbi to pray. What I hope that you have acquired is the confidence to find your own prayer experience, no matter what the prayer leader does. And I say this from experience going to other synagogues where I am inclined to judge. And then I say to myself, but I know how to do this. What? I'm here for the experience, not for the clinic. So I hope that you all have the curiosity and the desire to discover new paths to prayer, and certainly to appreciate what other prayer leaders, rabbis, cantors, whoever they are, what they bring you, because I guarantee you they will bring you things that I have not, could not, or didn't want to bring to you. So while this may be my last Yom Kippur as your spiritual leader, I am mindful that we have many, many more occasions to pray together. I'm looking forward to Sukkot and Simchat Torah. You better show up for Simchat Torah. We're going to clear all the chairs so that we can dance in here. You don't want to miss it. There's plenty of Shabbat services to come, and of course there's Purim. But I want us to cherish, as we've cherished Hayom today, cherish every day of this coming year to practice, to keep practicing, praying together, learning together, singing together, and laughing together. In this Ne'ilah hour, as we are all aware of impending endings, I urge you to look within and ask yourself, what do I bring to this moment? What prayer is arising in my heart? And I invite you to take this time, as we do at Ne'ilah, before the gates close, for us to really do our best practice at praying, each in our own voices, each in our own way. And together, we create a symphony of prayer, a cathedral of prayer, a vibrant and radiant community infused with the prayers and also the answers to those prayers in our hearts. Let's get started. El Nora Alila, page 746, opens up the Ne'ilah. And with appreciation to Rich Moshe for all of his melodies, I'm going to bring the melody that I myself learned. El Nora Lila, El Nora Lila, Hamselanu Mechila, Bishat Ne'ilah, El Nora Lila, Mete Mispar Keruim, Lacha Ayin Nosahim, Saldim Bechila, Bishat Ne'ilah, El Nora Lila, שופכים לך נפשם, בחפשם בחשם, המציאי מחילה בשעת הנעילה, אל נורא לילה, היה להם לסתרה, וחוצם ממארה, וחותמים להוד ולגילה, בשעת הנעילה, El Nora Lila, Chonotam Vera לכם, בכל לוחץ ולוחם, הסבע הם פלילה, בשעת הנעילה, אל נור עלילה, זכור צדקת אביהם, וחדש את ימיהם, כקדם ותחילה, בשעת נעילה, אל נור עלילה, קרנה שנת רצון, ואשר שארית רצון, עליבה ואוכלה, בשעת נעילה, אל נור עלילה, אל נור עלילה. Invite you to rise. Robin Fox is going to be our representative when she opens the ark in just a moment, acknowledging that when the ark is open, we should be standing. But if for any reason someone is feeling weak or dizzy, or for any reason at all that you can't stand, Robin is standing in for you. And please feel free to do what you need to be comfortable, as we are weak from this day of fasting, or from whatever it is that is burdening us. So that's an opening. And let's put our fervent prayer into the changes in the Ne'ilah service, where we are now saying this is the last minute, not v'chotvenu, don't just write us, but chotmenu, seal us in the book of life. 748. Yitkadal, Yikadash Merabai, Biamad Ivrachirute, Biamlich Malchute, Bekayechon, Uvyomechon, Uvachaye, Bechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uvizman Kariv, Vimru, Amen. Yehesh Merabam Vorach, Leolam Lo Me'omaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vivar, Vitramam, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemei de Kudesha, Barihu, Leila, Leila, Mikol, Birchata, Vishirata, Tushbechata, Benechemata, Damiran, Be'alma, Vimeru. The ark is now open. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imachot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'Neihem, L'man Shemo B'Ahavai. Zachrenu L'chaim, Melech Chafetz B'Chaim, V'chotmenu B'Sefer HaChaim, L'mancha Elohim Chaim, Melech Ozer U'Mashiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Uvoked Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים סומק נופלים ברופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר תצמיח ישועה מי כמוך הרחמים זוכר זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים איי 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 ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש כך כתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא מלא עולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה היה מקום כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד ההוד אדוני ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים ויחונם המייחדים שמו ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמע אומרים שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו הוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית לעיני כל חי להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך נצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אל אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה. As you daven this final Amidah and the ark is open, I invite anyone who wishes to come up and offer a heartfelt prayer. Come and stand before the Aron, offer your prayer, and then step aside, and we'll have as many people as possible come up and offer a prayer while we are davening. As people continue to come up, I'm going to begin in 762. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה נזכר וניקח אתם לפניך אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום. 763. פתח לנו שער בתפילת שער כיפן היום יפנה השמש יבוא ויפננו השערך אנא אל נא שא-נא סלח נא מכל נא חמול נא רחם נא כפר נא כבוש חטא ועוון. המלך יושב על כיסא רחמים. 766. מתנהג בחסידות מוחל עוונות מעביר ראשון מרבה מחילה לחטאים וסליחה לפושעים עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ורוק עופרתם תגמול. האל הראת לנו לומר 13 זכר לנו היום ברית 13 כמו שהודעת לעניו מקדם כמו שכתוב וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם ויקרא שם בשם אדוני ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא אדוני אדוני אל רחום וחנון ארך אפיים ורב חסד באמת נוצר חסד לעלבים נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו ומחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קוראיך כי עמך הסליחה. Continuing the bottom of 769. רחם נא קהל הדת ישורון סלח ומחל עוונם והושיענו על האישנו שערי שמיים פתח ואוצרך הטוב לנו תפתח תושיע בריב אל תמתח תושיענו על האישנו. Together 770. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו סלח לנו מחל לנו כפר לנו כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו אנו בניך ואתה אבינו אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו אנו קהלך ואתה חלקנו. אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו אנו צונך ואתה רוענו אנו חרבך ואתה נותרנו אנו פעולתך ואתה יוצרנו.
ידינו, אנו סגולתך ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו, אנו מאמירך ואתה מאמירנו, ידדדדדאי, ידדדדאי, 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 ואתה רחום וחנון, אנו קשי עורף ואתה ערך אפיים, אנו מלא עוון ואתה מלא רחמים, אנו ימינו כצל עובר, ואתה ושנותיך לא יתמו. 772. Ay, 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 ay. One last time. Ashamnu, bagadnu, gazamnu, dibarnu dofi, havinu, vehirshanu, zadnu, chamasnu, tafalnu sheker. Ay, 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 ay. Yatsnu ra, kizavnu, latsnu, maradnu, niatsnu, sararnu, avinu, pashanu, tsararnu, kishinu oref. Ay, 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 rashanu, shikatnu, tiavnu, tainu, titanu. 775, אתה נותן יד לפושעים, וימינך פשוטה לקבל שווים. ותלמדנו, אדוני אלוהינו, להתוודות לפניך על כל עוונותינו למען נחדל מעושק ידינו, תקבלנו בתשובה שלמה לפניך. Together on 777. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה נזכר ונחרתם לפניך אנחנו בחומך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום. Avinu Malkeinu, source of justice, source of love, source of patience, kindness, compassion, and the one who invites us to stretch and to be the best we can be. Avinu Malkeinu, chatanu lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech elata, Avinu Malkeinu, aseh imanu l'man shemecha, Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova, Avinu Malkeinu, afer atzat oivenu, Avinu Malkeinu, snom fiut mistinenu makat rigenu, Avinu Malkeinu, kolei dever v'cherev v'rav u'shavi u'mashchit min b'nei vritecha, Avinu Malkeinu, slach u'machal l'chol avonotenu, Avinu Malkeinu, achzirei b'tshuva shlema לפניך, אבינו מלכנו שלח רפואה שלמה לכל עמך, אבינו מלכנו חותמנו בספר חיים טובים, אבינו מלכנו חותמנו בספר גאולה וישועה, אבינו מלכנו חותמנו בספר פרנסה וכלכלה, אבינו מלכנו חותמנו בספר זכויות, אבינו מלכנו חותמנו בספר סליחה ומחילה, אבינו מלכנו עצמך לנו ישועה בקרוב, אבינו מלכנו הרם קדרן ישראל עמך, אבינו מלכנו מלא ידינו ברכותיך. אבינו מלכנו, קבל ברחמים ורצון את תפילתנו. אבינו מלכנו, נא אל תשיבנו ריקם מפניך. אבינו מלכנו, זכור כי עפר אנחנו. אבינו מלכנו, חמול עלינו ואל עלינו ואל תפנו. אבינו מלכנו, עשה למען הרוגים על שם קודשך. אבינו מלכנו, עשה למען שמך הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, שנקרא עלינו. אבינו מלכנו, חוננו בנינו. אבינו מלכנו, חוננו בנינו, כי אין בנו מסכים. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד והושיענו. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד והושיענו. The ark is closed. We will not be going outside. Big relief. But we are going to proceed to Havdalah. And as always, we're going to gather in the center. All come in the center, get as close as you can. We'll gather everything for Havdalah and then the final sounding of the shofar. And if someone wants to add a little ambiance and dim some of the lights, not all of them, please. Thank you. Thank you, Trish. Yes, that's great. So you get to hold that. And which one do you want to hold, Lori? All right, so hand the Kiddush cup off to somebody else. Sarah. If you need the words, we are on, oh, not that one. We need that one. 789? What? Yeah, see? 781. Well, we'll have a little light right here. Joyce? Oh, that's great. All right. That is definitely the world we live in. You can, yeah, we can do this. We can do this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei pri agafen. Borei agafen. Borei agafen. La 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. We don't have spices tonight. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei ha'esh borei meorei בין יום השביעי לששת ימי המעשה. ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול. Just hit the spot. Let's welcome in a promise of Mashiach, a better future. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimera v'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Im Mashiach ben David, Im Mashiach ben, and Miriam Hanaviah, Miriam Han, Oz v'zimra b'yada, Oz v'zimra, Miriam tirkoditanu, Miriam tirkodi, lahagdil zimrat olam, dil zimrat olam, Miriam tirkodit, litakein, litakein et haolam. Wax to spill. That's the problem. Okay. Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov. Shavua tov. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good vach, a good week, a good year, a good yar. Shana tova. I'm supposed to make an announcement before we hear the shofar, so you'll hear it. So you hear the announcement. Of course, you hear the shofar. For those who have registered for the breakfast, we've moved it. It's going to be downstairs rather than outside. And I'm going to hang out for a little bit, whether you come to the breakfast or not, so that we can all have a moment. But there will be many moments in the year to come. So let's turn back. Oh, I need that light again, Kenny. Thank you. 781. Ready? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. 7 times. Adonai hu Elohim. 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 Tekiah Gdolah. L'shana haba, l'shana haba, l'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba, l'shana haba, l'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim. Thank you. L'shana haba. Shana Tova.